How's anybody gonna get on the Zoom link?
Pardon me?
The Zoom link never got sent out. And it didn't last week either, that's why nobody was on.
What's that?
Nobody was on the Zoom last week. For class because it wasn't sent and there's no Zoom
Yeah.
next week.
Well, Fabian just texted me and said he'd like me to get on.
Did you send them the link?
Yeah,
Yeah, cause the first class, it was on KW command on the calendar. But the last two, it's not been.
hey. Hey, this Microsoft shit. Sue,
Yes, come on.
that's. We have the new exclusive representation agreement from College Realtors. Talk about home warranties. David said he's on his way. He should be hearing in a minute. Sorry, here in a second. He's here.
Is it coming? Baby. Huh? Baby. I don't know. I don't know.
That's all we have, just you and me? Another?
The first class was just 2 people.
Oh, the first class was just 2 of us?
Last class was most people. And then, yeah, today there's 3.
I want to say the first class. Was it including me?
You weren't here the first class. It was just me and the other girl that was here last week with blonde hair.
Oh, you sure? Am I in the right class? What is this?
The contract class.
Yeah,
Were you on
This is
the,
the
were you
third
on the
one.
Zoom?
no. I was in person. The last one I was leaving.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's the third one.
All right, let's get rolling. I'm gonna shoot with this stuff. We may get on here or not. Let's play the game. Yeah, there's a couple docs. We have the new exclusive buyers representation agreement. It just came out of Columbus Board of Realtors. A little bit of information about types of title. And we're gonna be going over home warranty today. And the value it brings to the table and how it protects the homeowner and how it protects you. In the case there's a lawsuit down the road. But so right now, we're in the three of the fourth class, and next week, we're gonna just finish up on a few things, earnest money. And then I'm gonna conclude the class, actually going through, using the exclusive buyer's agency agreement. You know, like, let's do some role playing, let's do a little bit of, you know, how do you have that conversation? When you're talking to a buyer before you even show them a house. Because these are the things we're gonna need to do. Because this will become truly in effect in August, but we need to start using it now. And explaining it to your client now, how you get paid, how the system works, what's the value you bring to the table. And Fabian, were you here last week? Sue, was it last week I passed out the 105 things?
Yes.
All right, I'll send it to you in an email so you can say, okay, what am I, you know, what do I do when I work with a buyer to sell a home? And if you read the purchase contract, you have 14 paragraphs in there. And there's 14 things that you need to do to represent your buying client properly. From dating the contract to identifying the contract, to putting terms and conditions, understanding the value, understanding the needs of the buyer. So what do you do? I think you need to understand and go through the 105 things that buyers do to represent their client, so that when we sit down next week, we could actually have a little role play in action on how to present the buyer's agency agreement. So that's how we'll finish out this class. So this is our third of the fourth series. So when you're in a contract, before we get going on the America's Preferred Home Warranty, that's the warranty provider here. There's a affiliate representative with Keller Williams Greater Columbus. They provide us the services of what the home warranty offers. It's important that we do talk to them. Understand, who do you call? This is their program right here. We need to read it. Because I'm gonna ask you, Amber, what's the home warranty cost?
$7.
What's it say?
825, 16. Base price is 400.
Huh? So I'm gonna ask Amber, what's the home warranty cost? Or I'm gonna say, Sue, tell me, you want me to have a home warranty, what does it cost? I mean, if the seller's not gonna pay for a home warranty, what does the home warranty cost? And you're gonna say, well,
$535.
$825 for a single family home. And it depends on the home you're buying, and it's kind of good just to understand their program. What does it cover for the buyer? So it's going to cover your electrical system, your heating and cooling system. So you're going to go through here and have an understanding of what the coverage will be for a home warranty. So the base price of a home warranty is actually $499 with a $100 deductible. There are $50 deductibles. You just have to understand, if I go to $50 deductible, it's $650. If I want to have identity theft protection, it's $825. So that's the coverage you're going to need. If you're in a townhome, and there's no crime in having this in your folder and saying, if you're going to ask me, well, let me look up. I know what the single family homes are. Let me go over with you. And it's just a simple conversation. Fabio, let me go over with you the America's Preferred Home Warranty program as we talk about the townhome that you're interested in buying. So you open it up and you look for townhome, and you can read it right off the paper. You don't have to memorize this stuff, but you need to have it ready for you. So the home warranty, what does it cover? The seller can provide it. And if the seller says, I'm not interested in providing it to you, the buyer can provide it. And if the buyer doesn't have money, you could, not to have an inducement, you could say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mr. Buyer, do you mind if I pay for the home warranty here, $650? So I can provide support to my client who's buying your house, you cheapskate. You're buying a house. It's the most expensive thing you're doing. It's also the most expensive thing you're selling. I mean, how many people have a $500,000 car? How many people have $400,000 car? How many people have a $300,000 car? So it's the most expensive thing you're buying. It's the most expensive thing you're selling. You want to protect your client and tell them why. And sometimes if the seller chooses, or maybe you've negotiated such a good deal that the seller says, I'm going to take the home warranty out because it's going to save me, $600-700. You could go back to write up a little addendum and say, hey, as the buyer's agent, I'm going to go ahead and purchase that home warranty for you. Or, you can wait till after closing. You don't have to have it before closing. You can wait till after closing. And then you can call up the home warranty and say, hey, listen, I want to issue a home warranty to my client at 123 Main Street. You get them registered and you get the system paid off. Now, a couple things important about what the home warranty is going to cover. If you read it, it says, hey, it's going to cover the HVAC system. It's going to cover the furnace, the air conditioner. It's going to cover your refrigerator. It's going to cover all these wonderful things. Septic tank, hotel benefits if you got to move out, your hot water dispenser, your water tank. Now, in saying that, you can't just carte blanche think that the home warranty company is gonna cover all these things in a home, because there's hundreds of things that can break and leak or whatever can happen. You need to have the home inspected. So if you have a home and your buyer closes on it, and they elected not to have a home inspection, and yet they want to have a home warranty, the home warranty may be voided because you did not do the home inspection. Because had you have done the home inspection, you would have discovered that the furnace was on its last leg, or something or other. You would have figured out, usually home inspectors can figure out things that are going wrong with mechanical. So be cautious of just buying a home warranty and telling your client that, oh, don't worry about it, the home warranty will cover it. Not necessarily. So you'll have to also protect the home warranty company, and you know, you could have a property inspected, and you could have you know, you could fix things, you know, trying to get things stabilized, you know, because they're gonna ask you, did you have a home warranty? Did you have a home inspection? Can I see the report? And you're gonna say, well, I don't have it. Well, did you do it? And you know, say, yeah, I mean, if you can't lie to the guy, so you're gonna have to tell him yes or no. So now, in the event that somebody says, hey, I don't want to have a home warranty, you know, I want to get in this house as tight as I can. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna waive it. If somebody waives their right to have a home inspection, you need to pull this document out. And even though they said it, they put it in an email, the America's Preferred Home Warranty Program wants you to use their formal document of acceptance and invoice. And down here at the bottom, it says waiver, and you're gonna have your buyer sign it or your seller sign it. And they're gonna electively waive that home warranty. So that in the future, 6 months from now, when that water tank does leak and the home warranty doesn't cover it, or they don't have a home warranty, they can't come after you and say, you know, you should have protected me. You didn't advise me properly. People all of a sudden forget that you said you should have a home warranty. But sometimes they'll forget, and then they'll come after you because they don't want to pay for it, they want you to pay for it. So so be careful that in the event that somebody says, I'm gonna waive this home warranty, have them, you know, document some form. The best way to have it documented is to have it on the America's Preferred Home Warranty Program. And you could rip this sheet out and give them the rest of the documents here. It's even perforated, so you can do that. And have them sign it if they just choose to back away from the deal, or back away from the home warranty program. That help? So the final thing about the home warranty is that, let's say there is a lawsuit. I think America's Preferred, we have, if there's a lawsuit, we have our our E&O deductible is $5,000. So I think America's Preferred will cover up to 50% of our deductible. So, you know, the deductible is, we pay, we've got the E&O insurance. So if there's a lawsuit, then the America's Preferred Home Warranty, even if you have it signed as a waiver of rejection, America's Preferred Home Warranty will still cover a portion of your E&O deductible. So nothing less. That signature is at least worth $2,500. Even if you never use it, hopefully you don't have to. But sometimes when home buyers sue because of something, because you generally say, you never informed me properly about the importance of having a home warranty. If you have them sign the waiver and there is a lawsuit or termites or some type of damage that could have been discovered during an inspection that would have helped out, it's going to save you some money. Okay. And it's, again, you ask, what's your value proposition? Your value proposition is right there. I mean, we talk about the things that it's gonna cover. We're gonna talk about why. And the other thing I'm gonna talk to you about as a buyer is that in the event you reject it, I'm gonna have you sign America's Preferred Home Warranty, page 1. I'm gonna have you sign it. And that will just indicate to both of us that you have chosen, it was your choice, to reject the warranty program that is offered to you. And so that is you know, if you ever talk to an attorney about the things that they can and can't do, they're straightforward, they hit you between the eyes, this is how it's gonna go down. This is what you're, whatever the deal is, be straightforward, and that's a high level of professionalism when you just say, hey, by the way, in the event you do reject the home warranty and you choose not to get it, I'm gonna have you sign the rejection page. And then that will be an indication that I've informed you about the value of it, but you chose otherwise. Questions about that? Now, in your purchase agreement, you have your purchase agreement with you? Anyway, that was paragraph 7. It talks about the home warranty. So that's paragraph 7. So the next thing we're gonna go over deed and title. You have to have, in the contract, it says in here is that sometimes when you're covering your deed, the seller's going to convey to the buyer a marketable title and in a title in fee simple and transferable and recordable general warranty deed with the release of dower, if any, or fiduciary deed as appropriated, free and clear of all liens and encumbrances not expected by this contract, and expected the following. Now, those created by the buyer, those specifically set forth in the contract. You could have an encumbrance on the property that both parties agree to. Zoning ordinances, if a freeway is coming through, they're going to take up a portion of your property. Deed restrictions, covenants, and like in condominiums. All these things have to be free and clear, except what is covered by the property itself. Amber, we were talking today with the buyer. We have a home person that bought a bunch of land. They're doing an 8-acre split, and they have a friend at one end of the 8 acres, and they wanted to put a drain line through her friend's property, which is on 8 acres, all the way through the middle of the lot they want to sell. Now, that's not a recorded deed yet. It's not a recorded easement. And so what we're talking about here, that, it's not recorded. So in the contract, it's going to state something that this easement will be recorded and that the two parties are going to agree to it. Now, there's a lot of other things we have to be concerned about, in my view. If you're going to build a house, you can't have an easement in the middle of a property where your footprint of the house is going to sit. So that is going to be, to me, that's an issue that could come up on this property where the buyer may just find out that they have to terminate the deal because that drain line was put in the wrong spot. I don't know why they did it. So that's an example that we are actually going through right now in a purchase agreement. A lot of farms you will see will have oil and gas, mineral rights, some type of lease or some type of contract on it. And it's pretty easy when you see an oil well pumping in the middle of a farm field. Well, there's got to be some agreement, and the odds are it's not the farmer, it's not the landowner who put that well there. So those type of things. Now, what does happen is that, these big farms. I might have a mineral rights to your farm. But I may never have drilled on it. But I still have rights to your farm. Now, some of these were written back in the 40s and 50s and the 60s. And these mineral rights will convey if I have mineral rights to that farm, they may convey to the new buyer. And when you look at it, you go, well, there's nothing wrong with this. I don't see anything. But there could be an agreement that was recorded at the county's auditor's office. Now, keep in mind, when you do title work, they go back about 42 years. Back in the title search. But if a oil and gas lien, mineral rights lien was put on a property 70 years ago, they're not going to see it. So it's going to be overlooked. It's just not going to be identified. So what may happen is that buyer of the farm may, and this is actually what happened to me. The buyer of the farm may take it and say, here's a 5-acre piece, here's a 10-acre piece, here's a 3-acre piece. It does all these little lot splits, right? And he sells them off. They're all single family homes. So what we did is over in the Intel Park, we assembled all those homeowners. We got them all together. We got 14 homeowners, 85 acres, all in one big block. Perfect, couldn't have been a better scenario. So when we go to close, the deal was such a big deal. The bank said you had to do a full, complete title search going back to the beginning of time. And what did they find? Oil and gas leases on the property. Now, the one guy had 5 acres. Now, whoever had that lease could never drill today on 5 acres. This is, there's too many environmental restrictions to do it. And the other guy, of the 14 properties, 6 of those properties had mineral right liens on the property. Now, it was done about 70 years ago, so the guy who owned the property is dead. Well, the guy who put, he died. So then you have another legal procedure to go through to get rid of those lien leases through public notice. You have to serve it, publish it in the paper. There's certain things you have to do. If nobody comes forth and says I have rights to them liens, then the court system somehow it removes them. So we had to get it delayed the closing for 90 days because that's how long it took to do the deal. So do these things happen? Yes, they do. So what is title insurance? You want to protect you against financial loss. And so what happened in our scenario is that the bank is going, it was a $14 million loan. And the bank's going, get rid of those liens. Because there's no way I want a financial loss of $14 million. Right? They didn't want to put their neck on the line, so that's why, the buyer and the seller, everyone was on board, the bank is on board. Everyone knew that this was a done deal. We just had to go through one more step in a 2.5-year contract. We had to push it out another 90 days to get the deal closed to remove those liens. So you want to protect yourself against the loss, financial loss through discovery. So that, if you can find it in 42 years, great. But sometimes you have to have a full search. In a regular subdivision, you're probably going to do, the search will go out at 42. And generally, if you have back title, that saves time too. But on farms, sometimes farms you might want to say, I want a full title search. Now the seller will say, well, I'm only responsible for paying what the contract says. And if you look over here, I'm going to have this the 2018 title policy pulled, and it's going to cover all these things. Anything past that time period, I'll pay for the 42 years. Anything back there, so it might cost a couple more $1,000s to go back in time, because going back in time, there was no electronics. Someone has to go to the courthouse. Someone has to do research. So there's going to be a lot of different homework to be done. So they have to find out title defects. Previous mortgage, liens are today. You know, there's always gonna be a mortgage lien. If you have a mortgage on a property, they'll put a lien on it. But there could be other liens, mechanical liens for contractors' work that was done and not paid, there could be done that. You know, you hear about forged documents, that could be done. Undisclosed errors, because what happens if all of a sudden you're going to closing and you have Sally Sue, who's a distant cousin of that's an heir to the asset. There's could be any number of issues on that. That can just serve a title. You want to be aware of that. And that's why you need title insurance. One, two things. If you have a listing, you want to get a hold of your title company, have a pre-title search. You just do a search on listed this property, 123 Main Street, and you do a pre-title, and they're gonna send you what is currently evident and recorded at the auditor's office. And you'll be able to see what kind of liens are on the property itself. Those liens will be, there's a Schedule A and there's a Schedule B. If there's anything wrong with the property, you're gonna go through the schedules and they will be identified. But, you know, we have, Amber was saying this morning, like there's only 500,000 Amber Smiths in the world, right? So an Amber Smith might have done something wrong where somebody filed a lien against Amber Smith, can't find her, but we might go to close and it might show up on your credit report, say, well, you got a lien on it. You say, well, it wasn't me. So then they have there's ways to correct that. So those are things that could happen. So you want to have your a title search, go back into the history of time. And so if you take a listing and you do see something that might be funny, you might want to bring it to the seller's attention. I remember you're the listing agent. And you might want to bring it to the seller's attention to say, are you aware of these liens on your property? And that, you know, what is your fiduciary duty? What do you do for me? For all the commission you make? These things here is what you do. You understand the process of buying and selling property. So you want to get the historical records of it, and whatever's on, you want to review Schedule A and B. The title company will send you the pre-title search, and just because you get it, just don't put it in your file. Read it. Let's figure out what's going on. Because if I list your property today, and a week from now I get the title, and there's something wrong with the title, I can go to the seller today. I'm only a week into the listing, and I can ask this, can we get this figured out? Can we get it fixed? Can we get it resolved? Because 90 days from now, if we get a contract and we're moving to close, I don't want to start the fix process a week before closing. I want to fix the leak, the problem with the property right now. So when it's time to close, we can keep this ball of wax moving and get it closed on time. So the search, what does the search do? It allows all the parties to be fully aware of any and all interest to the property and the land. So does that help? So when you get that document, it'll be whatever, 10 pages long. And you want to review Schedule A and Schedule B on the title. So why do you want to buy? Why should I buy title insurance? Well, it protects all the parties. You see it in the contract itself, number one, and this is important reason why we want to use the Columbus Board of Realtors contract. And at the bottom of that contract, it says 22. That's the most recent addition out right now. There may be a revised one coming up here along with this buyer's representation agreement. So it protects all interested parties. So in our contract, it says, I want to sell the property to you, but it has to be free and clear. So you definitely don't want to buy somebody else's problems. You want to be free and clear of all liens. So that's one of the benefits of having why you should buy Because if I'm able to acquire a property and, you know, maybe I inherited a property. You know, so that deed just comes over to my name, I'm the new owner of the property, and that, but I may inherit some problems that may be costly. So, so you want to make sure you have that title policy pulled. You want to see if there's anything wrong there, because you want to protect both parties from losses. Because if I buy a property and I find out that you did something like you built the garage, you never paid the contractor, and he's got a mechanics lien on the property for $50,000 for a garage. And now I own the property and I find out that you knew that you didn't pay. Well, you know, that's gonna cause a problem for somebody. Somebody probably sues somebody. I mean, everyone loves that word, but, so you wanna protect yourself from those liens. So that's the purchase of it. Now so policy, so you buy a house a year ago, 2 years ago, your title policy will protect you during the period of your ownership. You sell it, you have back title, that'll go to the next owner. So that is protects you during your period of ownership so that I don't have to come back and sue you for anything that was not disclosed. In disclosed or any liens that were filed at the courthouse. You know who pays for it? In some counties, in Franklin County, the seller is paying for the title. Down in Cincinnati, the buyer's paying for it. In our contract says the seller. Is it negotiable? Sure. It's still a negotiable item, even though it's written in the contract. But let's say, in today's world, we have limited amount of inventory and it might be a tool for negotiations that I will pay the seller's title expense to net the seller more money. If I write an offer for 400 and you, the seller, pay for it, or if Ben writes an offer for 400 and he says, no, I'll pay for it, who will get the deal? Because the seller will get a few more $1,000 depending on the cost of the house, 3 per thousand. Different counties have different dollar amounts per thousand of dollars purchased. So this is a variable. Our contract is written, though it's just written that the seller pays for it. So if you don't pay attention to it, this will is a negotiating factor in maintaining the net to seller for your client. And so, again, could the buyer pay for it? Yes, it could. Just like, could the seller pay for your commission? Yes. Could the buyer pay for your commission? Yes. What are you going to negotiate in today's business? So these are important factors of title, how much title insurance you need. Now, in different things, there's different coverage. In commercial, you'll find all sorts of different coverages. That you might need coverage for easement overlaps, down in German Village, before they even started surveying lots, a lot of those parcels have the property next door sitting on the other, your neighbor's parcel. That's the way it was. Nobody did anything back then. So there could be some type of encumbrance that you can get additional coverage for in title. So if there are some problems with the title, ask your title representative. We work with Northwest Platinum here in the office. You see Kathy Motz running around. Have a conversation with her. She'll take you to lunch. She'll talk to you about title. I think they had a class. They had an online class yesterday about title and title policy. So there's be aware of it. And that's the other important factor about getting to know the business affiliates here in our market center. They're here to really help us. So your business affiliates, our title rep, Northwest Platinum. Right there, do they wanna handle that closing? They want the deal as much as you do. They're a business, this is an important part of their business, is making sure that. They do have free and clear titles, that there's problems with the title. You want to get them addressed as soon as possible. And there's timelines, we're gonna go over that here in a minute, about the timelines, if there are problems, we'll switch over to the purchase contract itself and read the language in it. So right now, your title rep. And this is important here, who's gonna handle the closing? Well, if I list the property today, I'm gonna call Kathy today and say, I just listed 123 Main Street, can you do a pre-title poll? And she's gonna do a pre-title poll, so next week I have it on my hand. And, she's gonna say, hey, Mark, you might wanna take a look at Schedule A, there's some liens on there. There's a bunch of names on there, or there's a mechanic's lien, there's some type of stuff in there. They haven't paid their taxes in 5 years. Go figure, does that happen? Sure does. So right now is where you get to the point and say, let's solve our problems now and not when we're in contract. And so the other thing, when you're a buyer's agent, right? What's the responsibility of a buyer's agent? I like your house. Soon we're gonna write an offer on your house. Can I ask you a few questions? And you're gonna say, well, sure, Mark, you didn't write an offer on my house. Ask me whatever you want. I go, did you already have your title policy pulled on this property? And you know if there's anything that would hold this closing up? Do you do that? Because some listing agents don't pull the title. They wait till the contract comes. They wait till the end of the game. So ask your agent that, and ask them if they have already pulled the title. And does the Schedule A and Schedule B look pretty good? You don't see anything unusual, do you? Well, I haven't read it. But can how about checking it out? Remember, because again, the average sale price, the average home sale is $360. I remember it was like $79,000. Now I don't want to age myself, but I should have bought a lot more back then. Back then, I thought that was expensive. So do your due diligence, and these are the things why, when you sit with your client as a buyer, you're going to say, this is the value I bring to you. This is why you want me to represent you in your home purchase. So what I'm going to do now is, before I get to Q&A part, Ben, you got in a little bit late. Next Thursday, this is the new exclusive buyers representation agreement. Just came out today, hot off the press. We're gonna go over that and do some role playing about how we present this document to your clients before you actually have to get in front of them. So you can feel comfortable about expressing your market value. And so when you come next week, Sue, I see you have your folder with 105 reasons why, what a buyer's agent does, bring it. And so you can practice, just look at it and say, well, this is the things I'm doing. You can have the purchase agreement with you. I'm going to review the purchase agreement with you and go over all the reasons why you have me, because I know all the ins and outs of the contract. So we'll be able to talk about that. So next Thursday will be a good day. We are at the point as a company to say, we're gonna probably pull the trigger and say everyone's gonna need to use the buyer's agency agreement probably by the end of the month. Probably July 1, we might just pull the trigger. I haven't talked to Dale about it, but Dale and I did talk about setting the drop dead date where we need to pull this out. Now, keep in mind, this is for residential only. You don't need to do this on a commercial transaction. So if you're working commercial deals, the you know, in commercial, you don't need a consumer guide. I always use a consumer guide. Because I want to build my relationship with you first off and tell you my fiduciary duty to you as representing you as the buyer. I am going to do this. So keep that in mind. And
Will that July date be retroactive? So like, for instance, today I just met with someone. But if they don't purchase by July 1st, do I need to have that?
by July 1st.
You're saying,
Well, we haven't set a date yet.
right,
So, but I'm saying, you know what, if you start July 1st and then in August it hits the fan. And you're still in negotiations and trying to find a client home, and they're gonna go, what are you gonna do? You know, if you start working with somebody July 1 and then August 17th comes and says you need an agreement. And you haven't started the process yet. Now I have to stop my wheels from rolling, I have to say, Ben. Some new rules have come into play. And I need to go over them with you before I show you another home. So. And they're gonna go, well, I don't like that buyer's agency agreement, Ben. Well, we need to have an agreement of how the system works in order for me to show you any more homes. So you don't want that to happen. So July 1, I'm talking to your client and saying, you know, within the next 30, 45 days, there's gonna be a new law implemented. And it's, we have to now disclose to our buying clients how the buying and selling process works. And we have to disclose how agents are compensated, how brokers are paid. We need to go through our agent's responsibility for you as we tour the homes and as we go through contract negotiations. So I'm gonna be going over this things today. So I'm gonna have to do it July 1 than August 17th. Unless you get somebody in contract, but then you still, you know, better, this gives you an opportunity to practice. So we're gonna look at the good side of things. We're gonna look at the positive side of things and and start implementing it. I have a copy up here, Ben, if you don't have one. So. 6, 7, 8 here. Title. There we go. So. Over the last two events that we had going through the contract, we were talking about all the ways a buyer and a seller can terminate an agreement. Well, there's no difference in when we get to the title paragraph. Title evidence shall be certified within 30 days prior to closing, endorsement as of 8 AM on the business day prior to the date of closing. Prior to the date of closing, in accordance with the standards of the Columbus Bar Association, shall show in seller marketable title and fee simple, free and clear of all liens. Encumbrages and all subject matter of this paragraph, 8.1. So we go back up to 8.1, but it says right here, the title evidence shall be certified within 30 days prior to closing. So if I were at an offer today and I'm gonna close in 3 weeks, do you realize I could get out of that contract the day of closing? Because I have 30 days to look at that. Not 21. I got 30 days. So if you have a cash buyer and you're looking at this stuff, and this is the importance of understanding all this language in the contract. If it says it's certified within 30 days of closing and it hasn't been certified because the listing agent didn't pull the title. They didn't give the title company enough time to certify it. And we're closing in 3 weeks, but the contract says within 30 days, but they don't get the title certified until the day of closing. You know, there could be a problem. If, you know, odds are not, but it does happen. The seller shall deliver a clause to the buyer's broker, a copy of that commitment in paragraph 5, no later than 15 days prior to the date of closing. So you're gonna get it certified, you're gonna sit on it, you're gonna forget about it for 14 days. And then you're gonna remember, I need to get it over to the buyer's agent, and you're gonna send it over to me. So there's timelines involved with title work also. So you have to understand how that's gonna play out. If the seller does not deliver that commitment to the buyer may deliver a written notice to the seller. The seller's broker either to terminate this contract or extend the date of the closing to the 10th day following the delivery of the commitment. Upon termination pursuant to this provision, earnest money deposit shall be returned to the buyer. So let's say you're the listing agent and you don't get this to me. And my buyer terminates because we found another house. Doesn't matter what the reason is. I don't have to give you a reason. It doesn't say in that paragraph, it doesn't say you have to give me a reason. It says, if you don't deliver it, I can terminate it. So if you want my reason is you didn't deliver it. Not that I found a better house, not that whatever. It doesn't matter what the excuse is. The reason is you didn't deliver me the title within the 15 days. I'm going to terminate this deal. Now, what's going to happen here? Who's pissed off on this? Seller. Seller's pretty upset. And the listing agent's going to do whatever he can to blame it on the buyer's agent and the buyer. So, but what I would do, I would be very clear, is that the buyer may deliver a written notice to the seller. And so in my written notice, in order to protect myself and my buyer, I'm going to say that Ben did not provide me a certified copy of the contract of the title 15 days prior to closing. Which, maybe brought some concerns to my buyer, and my buyer has elected to terminate per this agreement. And per the agreement, it doesn't say that the seller gets to keep the earnest money. It says you have to return it. Now, seller's mad, you're not doing that. But so this is what I buy. This is what I see all the time. Seller gets mad. I give you money. You sit on it for 2 years. I don't care. So keep in mind, here's another out. Now, this is an out for the buyer. So if you have any encumbrances or anything wrong with the house, they come up, there's a period of time in here that will allow the seller to correct the problems. According to that, so the seller does have a period of time to if there is a lien on the property, to resolve it and take care of things. And all that does is then you have to go back to the contract itself, and then you have to address your timetables and amend the contract with the extensions in order to meet the timeline to correct the bad title. Then you have to correct the bad title through extending the closing into the future. Now remember that all time changes, everything else has to be in writing and agreed by both parties. So again, if both parties agree, then you have a contract. If both parties don't agree, then they have a notice of termination. So again, there's so many ways that this contract was designed to protect both the buyer and the seller. Now, the person who's supposed to protect the seller is a listing agent. The person who's protecting the buyer is that buyer's agent. And that's one of your value propositions. So, and you're going to explain this to them. The buyer lender designs. The surveys, sometimes more surveys work, generally in residential work. In here, be careful with this one here. Some deeds and tiles are very old. And you go to closing and they're gonna say, well, you need a new survey. It's so old, we need to bring our records up to date. You need a new survey. So in here, it also says, you know, these are generally, you know, like a new subdivision, that, all that's pretty current. You're not gonna run into this in the older properties, but it says in here that if the buyer or the buyer's lender desires a current survey, the buyer shall furnish and pay for the survey. It's your property. I mean, this is my position. Right? It's your property. You're the seller. You need to update your work. You pay for the title. You pay for the survey. Survey could be $1,200, it could be $2,500. If you got a 50-acre farm, it could be $3,500, $5,000. If you got a lot of woods, you're a lot more time, you know. So be careful and understand that this paragraph right here is important when you're dealing with older properties. Utilities, rents, and all that stuff, that goes without saying. So those, what questions do you have for me about the title? You see the importance of it? Remember, all liens have to be paid. So if you're going through over Jefferson Golf and Country Club, when they first built that subdivision, there were no streetlights. Well, then you know, the neighborhood matures, you got all the lots built out, now you have an HOA fee, and you're getting lots of money in. And one of the homeowners says, I think we need streetlights. So they put a contract out for streetlights, and each homeowner has to pay $25,000 for the bill on streetlights. You know, we bring electric underground, set the pole and all that. So it becomes a lien on your property. So remember, you pulled the title search. Your title search would say you have an assessment on your property of $25,000, whatever the balance would be, for streetlights on Jefferson Meadows Drive. So if you're the listing agent and you don't read the back title, because a homeowner doesn't know. I mean, they're called, but they don't care. The only time they care is they go, well, what's this $25,000 deduction on the settlement statement? Well, that's for the streetlights. You have a lien on the property for the streetlights. You go, well, I've only been here for 3 years. Why would I want to pay all that money for the streetlights for 3 years of, you know, for a lifetime of streetlights? They're gonna look over to the listing agent and going, did you know this? So that's the importance of liens and getting the pre-title work done. And so then you have to come back and renegotiate the doggone deal and say, Mr. Buyer, you know, I want to be here 2 years, 3 years. This is $25,000. You'll probably only be here 5 years. Why don't we just, you know, are you willing to accept the assessment? And some buyers will say no. You know, some buyers might be nice and say, yeah, don't worry about it. It's another $100 a month to me. But some buyers will say, no, you paid for it. Get it off my bill. That means I'm going to save, you know, $10,000 during my ownership of this house.
I just ran into this on a transaction where the assessment was about $5,600, and they were paying it every there's a water assessment, so they were changing it from private to public.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, from well and septic to public. And the option was for the buyer to pay $300 every 6 months. And it said that the lien was supposed to be paid at closing, but the seller said no. Even though the contract says it's supposed to be paid at closing, is that right?
Well, it wasn't negotiated out of the contract. The seller is obligated to pay for it.
Correct.
So the seller says no. The buyer has to make a decision. Do I want the house or do I not want the house? So the buyer could easily just grab their check. And they pull that check off the table. And they fold their notebook up and say, when you decide to take care of this, then. We'll be back, you let me know. So, I mean, everything is negotiation. What people hate is now they're under that pressure. They have to make a decision. You know, which costs some money. So if this is the reason why you want to look at that. The reason why I know this is because I saw the house over on Scenic Drive. Now, Scenic Drive. It was Reynoldsburg property. And yeah, it was Scenic Drive. This is way back. Way back when I had blonde hair. So we're going to closing and it was a miss. I missed it. We sold the house. I was a listing agent. And I overlooked the title work. I didn't read Schedule A or B. And on it had a sewer assessment. And it was about $20,000, maybe $21,000. And that buyer, they came to the table and the seller's going, well, I don't have that $21,000, you know, they were just, I don't have that extra money. But I was able to do the song and dance and get the buyer to take that assessment on. So I really, that's how I learned that. That one didn't cost me. But you ever backpedal? Well, you learn from your mistakes, but that was one mistake I learned from not checking the title work. And not advising the client that you have a lien, you have the sewer lien on your property. That they brought up and down Scenic. And everyone, you have to tap into it once they do that. So that's how I learned that. So you gotta be careful about that. So. What other questions about title?
The mark when they say here, the title evidence shall be certified. How is it being certified?
That's done through the title company. They
So
have
after
to
they
certify,
After they do research.
yeah, they do the
certify
research on that, yeah.
Clear, and whatever they found.
Yeah, so if there's liens on it, you know, then they say, well, Sue, you gotta pay those liens off in order for us to close. So they have to make sure that those liens are paid off. And then they would certify that these documents will prove that you paid off these liens. If they're federal liens, it's a little harder because the government's harder to work with. They don't move, like if I have a mechanic lien and I owe you $20,000, I can write you a check and you sign the release document and we're done. But the feds don't work that way. You know, so if you have a federal lien, like a tax lien, you haven't paid your taxes in 5 years and they're gonna, you know, eventually they'll confiscate you. So that makes a difference, but the title company will certify.
And so once they provide the commitment, does that mean that it's being certified? It's
Well, if they have a commitment,
or all the liens are cleared then, when it's
but the commitment, they will certify, they're gonna send you over a title commitment, and in the title commitment, it's gonna have the lien. And so you gotta pay the lien off. Remember, you have to be free and clear of all liens and encumbrances. So you're gonna pay that lien off, and then once those liens are paid off, then they certify that you did your part, and we're passing the clean title on to the new buyer. So a title commitment isn't certified. It's just, hey, this is the problems we see with the house today.
So when they say clear close, that's them certified.
Yeah,
meaning all the liens are paid off.
Yeah.
And then the title is free and clear, so that's when it's officially certified.
Yeah, clear close, yeah.
so. And I'm gonna buzz through this one right here. If you're ever getting a condominium listing. You need to have this purchase agreement in front of you when you take a condominium listing, and you remember. Why am I gonna pay you 3%? Why am I gonna pay you 4%? Why am I gonna pay you 5%? Because stuff like this, if I'm gonna list your condominium, I'm gonna pull this out and I'm gonna say, these are all the documents you need to provide me in order to sell your property. So can we pull these together before I go live? Because in here, we need the condo declaration, deed restrictions and bylaws. Some people have been in their condo for 20 years, they can't find them. But there's somebody who's managing that condominium association, and you need to go find that person and go get them. The board management phone number, so that's somebody who's running the associations right here. So you need to have that contact information. And so if you're in a management company, you're the person I'm calling because you're the steward of those documents. Any information on the mandatory membership associations applicable, blah, 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 name and email. If sometimes people want to sell their condominium because in the board minutes, in the association minutes, it says that, we gotta replace, the water line and units A, B, and C have to have the roofs replaced in the next 2 years, and units D, E, and F will the same, and the following 3 years will have to have their roofs replaced. And then you want to look at the financial statement. You need that financial statement. Some condominium associations don't have enough money for that. And if I don't have enough money and I have to replace the roofs, then it's an assessment. Some people want to sell because they want to avoid that assessment. So be careful, get the money, do the due diligence, do your homework. You want to pick up the minutes of the last 3 meetings. You dig deep, find out first, understand what is going on in the meetings, how are they communicating that? So you get your minutes, your meetings. The most recent version of unrecorded rules and regulations. So sometimes we'll make some changes to the rules, but we haven't documented them yet. So that might be something you would be interested in. Most current balance sheet and income statements, a copy of the most recent reserve study. Reserve study is what I talked about. What is the analysis of the community and what are some of the future expenses in order to maintain the community at a high standard. So that, and because all that relates to an expense. And if you ever look at, I always thought it was funny, you have a new condo association and the HOA and the monthly fee is $300. And I'm thinking, all these units and it's only $300. Oh, you guys are short. I already know you're short, And then by year 5, the dues are up to 500. In year 8, they're up to 800. It's like all of a sudden, the maintenance becomes more expensive. Things fall apart in the association, roofs deteriorate, ponds leak, whatever the deal is. All of a sudden, your HOA fees have gone from 300 from that brand new building you got. Now it's up to about $500, $600, $700. That's a lot of money for a monthly fee. For some. Because so finishing on the condo. So if you have a condominium listing and I ask you for these documents and you don't have it, the buyer shall have 5 calendar days after receipt of delivery. Again. Review period. So if I don't see those documents, the buyer has a right to terminate the contract. So again, there's another out. So if you're the listing agent, your job is to sell. If I'm the buying agent, I don't want the deal to fall apart. Sometimes you might have an agent that doesn't have those documents, and what agents will do is go back in history and go to the document of previous properties that sold within that subdivision. And somebody downloaded the documents in the document loop, and they will download those declarations and bylaws. Because they don't change, they're filed at the county. And they will, all of a sudden, the listing agent may not have it, but another agent could have put them in the loop. And you could find that information in somebody else's downloaded loop. That's just doing your private eye work.
That's okay?
Huh?
Is that okay?
If they, the condo bylaws, the declaration and the bylaws, they're gonna have a stamp on it. Yeah, that's okay, but it doesn't mean that you have the financials. It doesn't mean that you have the last 3 months worth of records. It doesn't mean you have the assessment of the community. There's still things you need that you may not be able to find in the document section of other loops.
That's,
But if it's stamped and it's a recorded document, it's for everyone in the association. I prefer getting it from you, Ben, but I don't want to have to go to somebody else to get the documents that I want you to give.
right.
Because by the way, I could still terminate. So then we're back. Talk about the homework. So that is our playbook for the day. So here's your buyer's representation agreement, compliance requirement. It's coming. Good run, but you can't hide from it. And here's the embarrassing thing about what will happen with this compliance agreement. We need it in the loop. As you know, part of closing out the file so we can release your commission checks. And the last thing you want to do is go to your client and say, I forgot. You know, you get paid too well to forget. So. This little document here, it just says the difference between a standard owner's policy and a homeowner's policy, the changes that in what it covers. This is the document you could also share with your client, showing that you understand the importance of an adult homeowner policy versus the standard policy. So that will be a fun conversation. You know, when you have that contract in front of you, and you're sitting with a buyer. Now, this is an opportunity where you're sitting in the office. Hopefully, you're sitting in the office and you're going, hey, look, I'm going to go through my value proposition, and I want you to notice I have a purchase agreement here in front of me, and I'm going to go through the value proposition I'm going to pay attention to in order to protect your interest in buying a home. Well, I know you're looking to move, you're blah, blah, blah. After sitting and talking to you for an hour, I know your needs and wants. So I'm going to reiterate your needs and wants, and I'm going to get you to agree with me. And so this is part of the value proposition I bring to the table. And for that, my fee structure is 4.5%.
I'll do it for one.
You thought I was going to say 3. So. Remember, there's no given fee structure. That's, you know, we don't set a fee structure. But the more you can convey your professionalism, the better you get paid. Right? And it's a work in process. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, it's a work in process. Amber has brought us a challenging task of taking down Scott. We're gonna figure out how to get that boy on our side.
Mark, Is there a
That's it.
way that I can have all these slides?
You want these slides?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the
I'll
first
email you.
section and the-
I emailed you last week's.
I didn't, no, I didn't see it. Didn't have it.
Yeah,
Although you did mention it here.
Did you get them, Amber? Pretty sure you wrote on this.
I didn't check the spam. I think kind of be.
There were two of the girls that sat up front.
First name, last name, SUECHAU. I didn't have it.
yeah, so the,
I'm on it.
yeah, he sent an email this morning. Was it today? No, yesterday, sorry. And if you scroll to the bottom of it, it has the slides from week 1 and 2.
I did
I'll
receive
send it to you guys.
the email about an hour ago before the class, well, 1 hour. before.
Yeah, it was yesterday, what time did he send it?
Something else.
It's from the Sullivan group,
So
yeah.
Okay. All right, let's get ready to get ready. So we'd be ready when it's time to be ready.
for the home warranty, last I looked on there, the basic one, it's $535. And I noticed on this new brochure, it's $650.
Is this a new brochure then? I don't, it might not be new.
Yeah, in that loop, it's $535.
535, yeah.
Oh,
When did he give you these?
I just picked them up. But he has a tray out there, so
Yeah, this brochure, you've been here for about almost, I would say at least 3 weeks. And then when I picked one up here, and then when I went to order for one of my suppliers, in the loop, it's $535. So I was like referencing back and forth, back and forth. And then when I went on to their website to order, it's $535.
all right.
So that's why I didn't call Mark.
I don't know. I will ask Mark about how current.
Or when is this gonna be in effect?
What did you get? Did you get the base plan?
The $50.
Oh, with the oh, that's why. You said it was 535.
Yeah,
Where's the one? There was one in here.
yeah, on page 2, is a like with the heart in front, 1 year.
Well, so it's $499 with a $100 deductible, but it's probably $535 for a $50 deductible.
Yes,
Yeah,
but here's $650 on this cushion.
where?